Everybody, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your first time here. I am your host, Davin James. Glad to be here with you guys here today. If you like my content, please consider leaving a like, also subscribing to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. So I'm talking about a woman from the UK. Her name's Althia Bryden. She's 58 years old and she's from London. Unfortunately, last summer, back in May, she suffered a stroke. She was left unable to speak or feel the right portion of her body for about 3 months due to a carotid web in her neck, which is believed to have caused her stroke. She is now back home and being looked after by her full-time carer, also her husband. The complications that came from the stroke, if you want to call it a complication, is the fact that she randomly started speaking with a completely different accent after the stroke. Now, as I said, she's from the UK. Although her family are from Jamaica, but randomly she started speaking with a completely different accent, which was an Italian accent after her stroke. So with that being said, let's get on with today's episode, shall we? Althia Bryden, 58, is retired and lives in London with her husband and full-time carer Winston, 63. After suffering from a stroke on May the 4th, 2024, she was left unable to speak and feel the upper right portion of her body for about 3 months due to a carotid web in her neck, which is what is believed to have caused her to have a stroke. Well, Althia was able to have it removed via surgery in August of last year. When she could speak again, she was left dumbfounded when her words were tingled with an Italian accent, despite having never visited the country. Althia admitted that a new accent even led to her slipping into Italian words during conversation and adopting mannerisms. These new words she included Mamma Mia, the very typical Italian words, Bambino, and whatever the last one is. Althia spoke to PA Real Life, and she revealed the moment she realised her accent had changed. Completely out of the blue, I just started speaking. She, the nurse, looked as shocked as I did. I remember thinking, who is that talking? Firstly, I couldn't believe it was me talking, but also I didn't recognise the sound of my own voice. The nurse rushed to get colleagues round to my bed. No one could believe I was talking after so long, but the more I spoke, the more confused we all became. She explained they asked whether she had an Italian accent before my stroke, and she revealed that it was a strong accent. But as the days passed and her accent remained, she felt like she had no control over her own voice. Althia added, doctors and nurses saw me as a bit of a medical marvel. None of the nurses, doctors, therapists or surgeons had dealt with foreign accent syndrome in their whole careers. Or I didn't sound like the Queen, but I sounded British. I've always lived in London, but all my family are from Jamaica. After going to a speech and language therapist, it was suggested that she suffered from a rare syndrome, which some people developed, leading them to take on a completely different accent, which is called the foreign accent syndrome. The NHS describes it as a happening as a result of brain damage such as a stroke. Although Althia is waiting for a formal diagnosis, she feels like she's lost her identity. Even my laugh is not the same. I'm not me. It's like someone is impersonating me. I feel like a clown with an upside down smile that people are watching perform. They are laughing, but I still have an upside down smile. She added, it's very sad. Everything is different. Even my body language is different. People aren't meeting the region of me. I don't know who I am. Althia was also diagnosed with aphasia, which is when a person has difficulty with their language or speech, as per the NHS. She said my brain couldn't understand it. It was very frightening for me, and I felt afraid and confused. Foreign accent syndrome isn't a condition I'm very familiar with. I think I've heard about it in the past, maybe I've done an episode on it in terms of a podcast, but it is still relatively new and still relatively unknown for the most part. Like in terms of knowledge, and in terms of awareness, etc, etc. I personally admire Althia for coming out and talking about this story. I think, especially when you got a condition which is really extremely rare and you want to bring more attention to it, because you're one of those people that unfortunately happened to go through this condition, and it's completely changed your life, completely changed you as a person, and you look and think about yourself. And it's left you with more questions and possibly answers in some regards. I'm glad she has somebody as well to take care of her, such as her husband. I can't imagine what they've been going through over the last year or so. I wish nothing but the best for both individuals. And I hope this brings out about this podcast is where I can talk about many different situations, many different stories, and it could be one such as this, where you have like a foreign accent syndrome, and it's completely rare, completely new, and not many people know about it. And after listening to this podcast, hopefully people can like look up this condition, maybe do some research on this condition, and help it make it more of an awareness to the world. Like, I'm not sure how many different countries this condition possibly exists in. All I know is so far it seems to be the UK. There definitely should be more of an awareness made about this, and it could possibly help somebody in the near future, in my opinion. And that's what it's all about, you know. And I'm sure Althia feels the same way, you know, hopefully getting her story out there and it grabbing some headlines to the point where people can talk about it and they can become aware of this condition, and more people become aware of this condition. The human brain is a great tool to have, absolutely. But it's also very weird and very strange, and it's something where it's interesting to dive into and experiment on in some ways, if that makes sense. Not talking about some twisted science experiment, but like, we're still learning today about how the human brain works and just how powerful the human brain can be, and some of the changes it can actually make to a person's life in some regards. But with that being said, thank you all for listening to today's episode. Please feel free to, you know, share some comments down below what in regards to today's story, whether or not you've heard of this condition before, whether you know somebody who's had this condition or has this condition, and what you think of the condition overall. But until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.